All right, so there's a number of useful skills that you're going to need to use pretty frequently in math, and a lot of times they're not telling you like when you need to know how to do these things and what exactly you need to know how to do. You're going to have to be able to look at a situation and say, okay, in order to figure this out, I'm going to need to do this and this, and then you'll need to know those skills. And that's, that's problem solving. That's real world. That's how it is for all of us with anything. So I want to introduce, or not introduce, I think a lot of you know this, maybe intuitively, or you've been taught it, but I want to talk about how do we express fractions as decimals. Now, the reason it's nice to be able to express things as decimals is I think decimals are the easiest way for us to compare numbers to each other. I really do. I think if you can get everything in a decimal form, it's very easy to see what's bigger or smaller than something else. So if you look at this first problem that I wrote down, it says which is greater, 5/18 or 7/25, and this is incidentally a dash, not a minus sign. So 5/18 or 7/25. Looking at it that way, I mean, you can't really, like 7/25. I know I can multiply each by 4, right? And I could go, okay, well, that's going to be 28/100ths. But I can't really get 18 up to 100 and get it up there right without doing a bunch of math magic. And we're trying to come up with something simple. So there's this really cool thing, and if you remember this, hopefully somebody else has taught you this before, but remember, a fraction is a division problem. It is a division problem. That's all it is. It's a division problem. It's just another way of writing a division problem. So 5/18 is the same thing as if you went 5 divided by 18. They're equivalent expressions. We'll tend to use 5/18 more in algebra and even in pre-algebra because we're trying to get away from using these more kind of elementary school signs. But the cool thing about that is if you recognize this and you have a calculator, you can figure out what 5/18 is really easily. And all you have to do is just go 5 and you plug it in, and I don't know why my calculator's not working. All right. I had to just get rid of that thing. 5 divided by 18, you hit equals, and then you get a number that is a repeating decimal. So you get 0.27 repeating. And I can tell it's repeating because if I look at those sevens, they just, keep going on and on and on and on. And then the only reason it's 8 at the end is because they're rounding it up. All right, now let's do the same thing with 7/25. All right, and hopefully some of you might be able to see this and say, oh, I know what it's going to be. And that's great if you do. But if you don't, you just go 7 divided by 25 and you get 0.28, and it is a terminating decimal, which means that it doesn't go on forever, and it's not repeating, and it's just 0.28, or how we would say that is 28/100ths. All right, and then when it says which one's greater, well, when you're comparing decimals, you line them up and you look at them, and well, this is the same, but then this one is a little bigger than that one. All right, so that means that 7/25 is greater than 5/18. All right, let's look at another problem. So this one says order the following fractions from least to greatest. All right, so the first thing I would do is I would write these all down, and let's figure out what their decimal equivalents are, and then we can figure out which one goes first, right? So we start with 9/20. 9/20 you could do in your head, but it's, if you've got a calculator and you're using it and it's just a division problem, it's 0.45. And remember too that if they're asking you to do this without a calculator, it would be like this. It'd be how many times does, this number always goes under the house, right? That's your dividend, and then this is your divisor, right? So 20 And then you would say, well, it goes in. I don't know what happened. Weird things are going on here. All right. 20 goes into 90 4 times. Get 80. Gives you 10. Bring down to 0. 20 goes into that 5 times. And then it ends. And you get 0.45. All right. 11 25ths. Well, this one you can multiply each by 4 and get 44 100ths. Well, if it's over 100, you can just take this and just write that as your decimal. Okay, because that's what a decimal means. 44 100ths is the same as 0.44. 4 ninths, you'll see enough of these where you'll be able to write that on your own. But if you have anything that's a ninth, it's just that number repeating. If it's, between 1 and 8. So it would be 0.4 repeating, and just so that we understand that, we're going to write it like that. So you can write repeating with the line over it, or you can have the dots going. And then 49 100ths, or 99ths, sorry, you just put in. And then that's another repeating one, but it's a weird repeating one. This repeats, the 49, 49, 49, 49, right? And we'll do that. And so if I'm going to put these in order, I want to kind of look at them, and they all have the same digit in the tenths place. So that doesn't help me. And then you start looking at the hundredths place. Well, I know that 5 is bigger than 4, and we've got 4 and 4 here, but 9 is bigger than 5. So it looks like this 49 99ths is going to be my biggest one. And then from that, it looks like my next one is going to be 9 20ths. All right, so I'm getting somewhere with this. Okay, and then I got to figure out which one's bigger, 11 25ths or 4 ninths. Well, here's the thing. If I look at this right here and I say, well, I got it written out to 4 places, but this is only written out to 2, just add zeros on until you get to 4 places. And then just, same. All right, they're different. Now you can compare them. Well, 4 is bigger than 0, so this one is larger than that one. So 4 ninths, and then your first one, which is our smallest one, would be 11 25ths. And so this is kind of just sort of a basic way of how to do this. Sometimes they'll have you order numbers where some are, under radical signs, some are decimals, and blah, blah, blah. We're just doing this with fractions just to get a little grip on this. And then this last problem here, I want to show you how easy this is to do. I know a lot of students and a lot of books that tell you that when you do a problem like this, first you got to turn it into an improper fraction and go 3 times 8, right? And that gives you 24. And then you got to add the 5, right? And that gives you 29. And you put 29 over 8. And then you divide 29 by 8, right? 29 divided by 8. And then you get 3.625, right? And this absolutely works. There's a much faster way of doing this. Recognize, first of all, that this 3 is a whole. Well, if it's a whole with a fraction, it's going to be a whole with a decimal, and it's going to be the same whole. It's not going to change from being 3. So you're going to have 3 point something. And then just take this 5/8 and figure out what it is. So just go 5 divided by 8. Well, it's 0.625, and so just put your 625 right there, and boom, you're done. And you didn't have to do all this monkeying around. And not that you shouldn't know how to do this, because you should, because you'll have to do it from time to time when you're adding and multiplying fractions that, with mixed numbers. But for something like this, this is a much more direct route. Recognize that this is a whole, and that you can just continue to write it as a whole. All right, I hope this helped.